a guy that I'm really honing in on, and I think we could talk about him if you want, Ryan. And probably the best wide receiver in Mobile, and that's not just because, but he's a guy that probably had moved off of a lot of people's boards. He was a day 3 guy, and that's Roman Wilson, the wide
Roman
receiver for
Wilson.
Michigan.
Let's pull it up.
Um,
Bam.
yeah, he showed, like I said, he was a slot guy in college on a team that didn't really push the ball vertically at all very much. I mean, they were run oriented, play action. Everything was short within 15 yards in college. So I just, my film study on him, I labeled him as a slot only guy. He was okay. Nothing really crazy. I mean, the stats you can probably see on Ryan's slide what the stats are, but he showed me that he can get off press with a varied bunch of different good release packages. So to me, one, that tells me that he's not like a slot only guy, that he can play the Z, that he can move around. I don't know if I'd have him as my boundary, X receiver. He's only 6 foot tall, maybe. But that shows, him being able to defeat press was really, really huge. On top of that, when I tell you guys that he didn't miss a thing, the guy catches literally everything thrown his way. It was really, really a sight to see. There's a viral rep that maybe you guys saw, maybe you didn't. At one point, I think it was day 2. Jeff Ulbrich, picked one of the he pulled the defense aside and he said, pick your best defender, your best defensive back, and they picked Quinyon Mitchell. And he pulled the offense aside and he said, pick your best wide receiver, and they picked Roman Wilson, and they matched those guys up 1-on-1. And although Quinyon Mitchell slipped in the rep, Roman Wilson made the play because not only did he beat him when Quinyon Mitchell slipped, but the quarterback, I think it was Penix, if I'm not mistaken, kind of threw it a little bit. It was an outbreaking route, and he kind of threw it behind him. And Roman Wilson turns this way and grabs it with one hand before putting 2 feet down. It was a spectacular catch. He catches everything that he can. He's explosive in and out of his breaks. He shows those really quick Tank Dell-esque short areas bursts. He's got good long speed. He's going to be a guy that runs 4.39, 4.42, somewhere around there. So he can really attack it with different styles at all 3 different levels. He's also not afraid to get his nose dirty, man. He's a dog as a blocker in the perimeter or stalking downfield. I think, to me, that's the guy I'm honing in on in that round 3 if I choose to go wide receiver. I liken him a lot to Tyler Lockett. His game reminds me a lot like Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett, we know him mainly as in the beginning of his career, he was just a deep threat, but he was developed into a lot more than that. I think Roman Wilson has a lot of those similar traits. He's going to burn you deep, but he could do a lot more than that. He's a guy that I expect to score double-digit touchdowns relatively early in his career, pretty steadily.
That gets me excited because the 3rd round is kind of where I'm penciling us in for a wide receiver, most likely, unless we somehow magically do something crazy. I think you'd have to trade down to get a wide receiver earlier than the 3rd, in my mind. Now, maybe we strike out in free agency and they decide it's such an imperative thing we have to go up and get one, in the 1st round. But I think that's a little bit more of an outside opinion compared to most Jet fans. Most Jet fans are probably feeling offensive line early on here.